Hey, this is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats. Tonight I have Ben Swalwell. Did I say that right?
Spot on, first time.
Spot on. Swalwell with me. I'm super excited about this. Ben, give us a little insight onto where you're at, what you're up to.
Okay, so my name's Ben. I am based down in Florida. I'm originally from England, and I've been in the US for about 4.5 years now. So I played a little soccer back in England. I played in some academies and played in the local leagues. Then moving here 4.5 years ago, I really got into coaching. There's not a lot of like local leagues to play in. So I started out at youth level, and then over the space of 3 years, I went from youth to high school to college really quickly. So it was a really interesting kind of jump and progression through that. And then I graduated from college last year, so I've now become a history teacher. So I'm kind of focusing on that right now. Have a newborn baby, so kind of mixing soccer, teaching, and the baby's kind of hard. So soccer's on the back burner coaching wise. So I'm really kind of focusing on the teaching aspects and then the family side as well.
Right on. So what brought you over to the States from England?
My wife.
Well, there you go. Whatever
Yes.
she says goes.
Yeah, so we actually met in Italy. So we were both living and working there. She invited me over to the US, and I said, "What's the worst that could happen?" And I ended up getting a degree, buying a house, having a baby. So it's going pretty well.
The American dream.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool. So what's something that you experienced going through playing youth soccer overseas to now seeing kind of how things are here soccer wise and what have you? What's some of the things that you see as differences or maybe similar?
I was really surprised when I came over. I know like soccer isn't the main sport over here. Like in England, it's a religion. Like more people go to games on a weekend than they do go to church. So like it's what you live for. Whereas here, it's seen as, oh well, I have some time off from playing football or basketball, so I'm going to play soccer as well.
Mhm.
So knowing that it wasn't the number one sport, wasn't expecting a lot, but I I was pleasantly surprised, especially coming into Florida. A lot of kids, it's their number one sport and they play it all year round. So I was pleasantly surprised with the level of ability that players had.
In Florida, because of the weather, are they able to just practice outside pretty much 365?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, once you get into the rainy season, we do have a lot of lightning storms, and that can affect people's ability. If we have a really heavy rain, then it can affect the ground. A lot of it gets flooded easily, but generally, yeah, you can train 365 around here, which is nice.
With the move from England to here, even from Italy, what's the transition been for a Englishman into American education system?
So the education system's been interesting. I always, I, I seem to get like a lot of talk because I'm from England. A lot of people ask me a similar question, and I never actually went to school here. Like it's hard to compare the two. Like as a teacher, you see it very differently to as a student.
Mhm.
So just simple things like the way we break up mathematics here. We have a class for algebra, a class for geometry, a class for calculus. Like when I went to high school, we didn't. It was just mathematics across the board. So they taught each thing, but it was just part of a mathematics class.
Okay.
And same with science. It wasn't broken up as like A and P, like biology, chemistry. It was just science as a whole. A lot of kids are shocked. So like my high school experience, I went to a really small high school. There was only 500 kids, and it was very similar to if you read the Harry Potter books. So like my school had four houses that competed in points when it came to academics and sporting events, and then you competed for a cup at the end of the year. So we were broken up into these different houses. I was in the greenhouse, which everyone laughs at because obviously that's Slytherin and it's the worst. But we had things like prefects that were like upper level higher kids that like can patrol the halls and told kids what to do. I was one of them in my last year. It was kind of nice. You get to boss kids around.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people that have read Harry Potter, I just tell them like, just watch Harry Potter take away the magic, and that was my high school experience.
Wow, that is really, really, really cool. Because ours is like we put them all everybody in one building, and
Yeah.
it's hallways and so then what's the size of the school that you're at right now?
So right now is 2,600.
Ooh, so that's a huge jump from 500 to
Yeah, huge jump. And like with right now with COVID, about a quarter of those kids currently are studying from home virtually.
okay, right on.
So we've seen a big change from the start of the year to now. It was about 50-50 to begin with. But then as kids have struggled to do online, they've come back into school. So we're seeing an increasing number in the school right now.
Is that are you seeing more of that maybe more for the social side than as much as the academic?
Um, it, I think it's a bit of both. There was a executive order that was put in by the governor of Florida that if students were failing their first semester, they had to return to school. You were allowed to bypass that if you were okay with your child failing, but a lot of kids came back because their grades were really suffering. I mean, it's hard. Like, not everyone has access to like a regular stream of like Wi-Fi.
Yep.
A lot of kids, kids even told me when they came back into my class, they were like, "Sir, when I was in your class, sometimes I just played on the Xbox and I didn't listen." Like, it's hard to like get kids to focus when they're at home.
Yeah.
Don't have the room to like separate school from home. It's a difficult time. So like I feel for them having to come back and work hard to get their grade back up again. We're just in a really difficult situation right now.
Right on. So you played youth ball in England, and then did you play college soccer over there as well? Or
Yeah, so I played in some of the local youth academies. Um, so the first one I started out in was a semi-professional team that was close to where I'm from, and then I played a year or two in some professional academies. Now, in England, when you say professional, that could range anywhere from the Premier League down to League Two. Like England has such an array of professional leagues, so I'm playing with the Ronaldos and the Messis of their youth. Like I was playing with kids who maybe made a career out of it, but not at the highest level. But still, like for a 13-year-old, me coming into an academy from a small area, it was really interesting. I played like all through my years throughout high school, and then I played a little bit of college, but I have a hereditary back condition, so it affected my ability to play, especially around like the ages of 16 to 19.
so just to kind of give an idea, how does one get into an academy? Like you see kids signing and all this kind of stuff, but how did you go about it? Was there like a tryout they had and you just showed up, or
Yeah, so a lot of it. So the first one that I got to with the semi-professional team, they came and watched me at a tournament that my elementary school team played in. So it's like a five-a-side tournament. They came and saw me play and they said, "Hey, would you be interested in trying out for this academy?" And I was like, "Yeah." As a 9-year-old, I'm like, "Yes, please." So I went there, and then it was from that team that then someone came and scouted me for the professional team and asked me to come along. So I had a 6-week trial at one club that didn't work out. And then I went to another one where I spent a year there before I left there because it was too much traveling at the time. Like my dad, we were getting up. I was still playing for the semi-professional academy as well as the actual academy. So I was playing like 2 or 3 games a weekend, having to travel. I mean, in America, 2 or 3 hours isn't a long way, but in England, 2 or 3 hours is a long drive.
mm-hmm.
And like you can do the length of England in 6 hours. Like I can't get out of Florida in that time.
True.
So like a couple of hours drive is long for us. So it was a lot of strain on my dad to have to trek me around everywhere. And although he never complained, like I'm sure he spent a lot on gas that I really didn't realize at the time.
So a couple things that pop in my head is so there are actual scouts just going out and just watching games, just trying to find that next quality player.
Yeah, like they'll go down to the grassroots levels. Like, I mean, it's been a while now since that happened. Like they just happened to come to like a game that I was playing with my elementary school. Like we developed we had teams running in elementary school from the age of 7, I think, where we played like 5-a-side games. So they would come and watch elementary schools and things like that. But yeah, they would just come and watch, especially like out in the countryside where I'm from. Like my village that I grew up in is 500 people, the entire village. So yeah, there's really not a lot going on. So they do try and get out to like the far reach places to see if there's any like hidden gems. But yeah, they'll be coming around just watching like as many games as they can, just to pull people into community programs and things like that.
That's so cool. So what about the one that you said you went to for a little stint, but it didn't work out? Like, I think it was the 6-week one or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
so I had a 6-week trial there, and the reason they let me go was that they said that my first 5 or 10 yards weren't quick enough, like getting off the mark. So I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'3", and I've been 6'3" since I was 13. Like I had a huge growth spurt, so I
yeah.
was tall for a long time. But because I'm tall, it takes a while for me to get going. But like once I'm running, I would be past everyone. But those first 5 or 10 yards, it took me a bit, my legs to get going. And
Mhm.
that's the reason why they let me go. Like after speaking to other people later on, they said that they're very biased towards people from certain areas. But as a 12-year-old or 13-year-old coming into that, it's pretty demoralizing to get dropped from something like that. But luckily, there was another academy that I could step into afterwards, so it made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought was like, I know it's difficult for me at the high school level to like, oh, you're not good enough for varsity, you're gonna play JV or to cut players. And at that age, like you said, when someone even mentioned the idea of like doing an academy, you're like, well, heck yeah, I'll do that. And but
Yeah,
then just the idea of like it's somewhat cutthroat, like it's a business for them at the end of the day, and they gotta
definitely.
put the quality
Yeah,
people.
we don't focus on high school sports as much as America does here. Um, the way the system works here, you go through college and then through the draft to get to the professionals.
Hmm.
In England, you make the professionals through the academies. So no one pays attention to high school games. No one ever came to watch our games. We didn't have a stadium. Even my college games, like you would maybe have a couple of friends come and watch, but like no one was interested in the college games because most people in college were playing in academies where they would make pro. They wouldn't make it pro through the college.
So pretty much your youth years, your 12 to 16, 17 are those that's the like prime time to be found.
Yeah. I mean, some
Please.
kids, some kids get found earlier on. If you, I read something the other day. Mason Mount for Chelsea. He just captained his first game for them. He's been at Chelsea since he was 6 years old. Yeah, so like they will find you young, but like they can cut you at the age of 7 or 8, or like you can get cut at the age of 17. Like it's a very difficult process. I think 1.5% out of all academy players actually make it pro.
Wow, that's crazy. And
Yeah,
then
it's
for that, is there just kind of I've been in the club scene here in America, where it's all pay to play. When you were
mm,
joining those clubs, did you have to pay the club to be a part of it, or was the academies like, hey, we'll give you the gear and we'll take care of you, or
there's like a signing on fee. So I mean, as a kid, I don't remember if my dad paid. Um, like I definitely didn't pay for it. I was making.
out of your allowance?
Um, I remember the semi pro one that I first came at. The signing on fee, I think, was like $30, or the equivalent of $30, and they gave me my jersey, with the whole uniform. So I just had to. I think I paid like a substitutes fee that paid for the referees,
Okay.
but it didn't equate to anything at what people pay over here. Like I was so shocked when I like was introduced to the pay to play system here. Like it it blew my mind that people pay thousands of dollars a year for their kids to play a game that can be played anywhere.
Yeah, that's it's even scarier when you say it like that. Like you can just put up two sticks and make it a goal and
Yeah,
just rock and roll. You just need a patch of grass.
yeah. We would put two sweaters down. Those were our goalposts, and like we were done. That we would be gone for hours. Like I grew up where you didn't have to come in until the sun went down. So like in the summer, I'd be out until 10 o'clock at night playing between two sweaters, like just kicking a ball and scoring goals, and it was the greatest ever. Like I didn't need any structure to teach me how to play. I just had these two sweaters, and like that was great.
That is so cool. The other thing too is it sounds like, which we're trying to get more and more kids to do, is just the idea of just playing pickup, like just street
Yeah,
ball or whatever you want to call it.
yeah. I was playing in my street. Like like as soon as I got home, I would change. Me and my brother would go out. We would have like a one-way street outside my house, so it'd be maybe 15 feet wide, and then we would mark out maybe 20 feet the other way, and we would just play in that little area. So like me and my brother learned ball control really quickly just because we played in that little area on concrete.
That's so awesome. So awesome. Uh, the one thing you also mentioned, which I thought was cool, was your recognition of your dad and the amount of time that he spent taking you to and from. And I think it's really cool for people to hear like how young you can start getting into some of this stuff overseas. I think it's cool to hear like, look, man, you could be in the club for 4 years and then there's other guys better, then we'll have to let you go. And then just that I don't think people understand that just because you're in it, it's not all hunky dory. Like you're not just you, but your family has to make a major, um, you know,
Absolutely. I at the time you don't realize the sacrifices that your parents put in,
that's the word.
but like not just like it wasn't just soccer. Like I used to do track and field as well, and I used to do it for like a region within England. So like it was like every third Sunday, my dad would drive me 2.5 hours for a 2 hour training session, and then 2.5 hours home again. Like just once it was like the third Sunday of every month or something like that. And like I would play 2 or 3 games on a week, and my dad would drive me. Like once I was old enough, I would take the bus to practice, so my dad didn't have to drive me. And I would turn up late to practice because the bus schedule. I would have to leave early.
Yeah.
So I always thought it was going to affect like my ability to play. But the fact that I still turned up, like realized to the coach that I was actually really interested and I wanted to be there. Plus, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I was the best player on the team as well, so he wasn't going to drop me.
That's
But
always
no,
big.
like
That
my
always
dad
makes me-
driving me hours and hours a weekend. Like I really didn't think about it until I was old enough, and like the amount of time that he put into me just developing as a player and a person, like I can't thank him enough for it.
Was he not beyond just the driving to and from? Was he one of those that kind of got you into the game of soccer from the get go, or what was your
Yes and
inspiration?
no. I mean, like soccer's the main sport anyway, so like the vast majority of people get into it. But my dad played for the local like Sunday league team, so from the age of probably 5, I would walk with my dad and watch the game. Like I remember standing like in the locker room like after the game, and like it's really sweaty and humid and full of like radiant B rub, like the deep heat rub, like that smell like
Yeah.
stick. Every time I smell it, it's that memory. But yeah, I used to go watch him all the time. I watched him, like I saw him break his leg, which was a really big thing. Yeah, it was pretty shocking to watch. But I also had the ability to play with him as well. Like because it's Sunday League, you can play it to like any age. So I started playing Sunday League when I was 14. So on top of the academy, I was playing the Sunday League with the men. So I got to play in the same team as my dad. So that was really nice.
Wow, you seem to have been playing a lot of soccer when you were younger in a week.
Oh, I played a ridiculous amount. If I wasn't doing my schoolwork, which honestly I wasn't most of the time, I was playing soccer.
Well, hopefully your students don't hear that.
No. I was a good student at school.
He was on top of it, people. So one of the things that I know you've been putting together and working on, I wanted to learn a bit about was you've been putting together an ID camp type setup And can you give a little insight into that, and then we'll delve into it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, coming into America and understanding, like learning about the pay to play system and the college system and how it all works, I realized that it. It sounds bad, but a lot of it seems to be a money making scheme.
Mm.
You look at the cost of showcases can go up to thousands of dollars for a team, or you want to go to an ID camp for a college, and they can charge anywhere between $50 and $200 for you to turn up to an ID camp. And especially this year, or 2020 with COVID and everything, a lot of people have been affected, not just emotionally, but financially. And people can't afford to play club this year, or they can't afford to go to the ID camp that they wanted to go to. So I'm trying to set up something that allows people to put their talent across to as many colleges as possible. So what I've set up is the St. Lucie West College Soccer ID Camp, which is a free ID camp for anyone that is in the school district that I work in, which is St. Lucie County in Florida. All they've had to do is just sign up to through an online form. I've created a website. I've set up the camp. We have 25 colleges attending virtually. So all I'm trying to do is just get these kids exposure out there and just try and get them like into a college that they really want, like that they maybe wouldn't get otherwise.
So, are there multiple high schools within the school district?
So we have 5 public high schools and a charter school. So there's 6 of them all together within our district. We're allowing anyone that's a junior or a senior to sign up to that to register to play in there.
So, what you have created is, instead of forcing kids to have to pay money to go to a school, and with all of the issues of getting to places and what you're allowed to do, not do, you're creating an opportunity for these players for free.
Yep.
Show up, play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let coaches see you playing, and then start building that recruiting resume.
Yeah. There's no strings attached. There's no like scheme to it all. All we're trying to do, me and my athletic director at my school, we're just trying to help as many kids as possible, like hopefully make their dream of playing college soccer.
That is so cool, because I completely agree. I feel like we have priced kids out. Socioeconomics is too much of a factor in whether or not you have opportunities to do things. Um, and I think the fact that you're like, forget about the money. I'm here to give some value. I want to give these players an opportunity that they may have not had before. The other thing, have you found, talking, and I don't know how much interaction you've had with some of these, maybe just from the players at your specific high school, do you find that a lot of them don't understand the recruiting process, or even what an ID camp was in the first place?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them have attended them before. Some of them are kind of skeptical that like this random guy has just walked up and said, "Hey, would you like to play a game of soccer?" So I've given them a basic rundown of what it is, and nearer the time, we're going to have a group Zoom call, and we're going to talk about the process of recruiting with college and how to contact coaches, how to go through that process like step by step.
That's so cool, because I think these kids, a lot of times they see the all the 5 stars, and you see everything on Twitter, but almost like your academy experience, you've got to put the work in. You've got to reach out to coaches. You've got to connect, and take advantage. Like, something like this is so cool. Would this be something, if it goes well, that you'd like to maybe expand?
So my overall plan would be to do this for every sport, every high school sport. Um, so to have an entire weekend of soccer, football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, like all the high school sports, have one weekend where we can have, hopefully once COVID is over, have coaches from all over the country come into St. Lucie St. Lucie County, bring in revenue for the county, and try and get as many kids as possible the exposure out to colleges. Because a lot of these kids, we live 2 hours from any major city that, at least for soccer, has a program. And a 2 hour drive, for some people, they can't make it. Parents work 7 days a week, 3 jobs. So if we can do one right in their backyard where they can cycle to, like it's perfect for them. So Soccer's the main one because of just the pay-to-play system that I've experienced. But if I can do it for every sport, that would be the end goal for this.
The other thing that's really cool is, so when you came up with this, it sounds like your athletic director was like, "I love this idea. Let's go for it."
Yeah, he was on board straight away. He's new to our school and isn't fully understanding of soccer. But I sat down and I explained everything to him, and I just said like how much of a good thing this would be for the kids. Like it's good exposure for our school, it's good exposure for our county, but just for the kids to have that ability. So he's been on top of it. He's been on it from day one. He's been helping me set up as much as I can. He's the one that helped me get the venue and everything. We've got a stadium rented out for it. He's helping me get the officials and do all the logistical work. I've just got to try and get the kids on board.
Right on. How that is so cool. When you can get both you and like the guy above you, or that one that overlooks that, on the same page, that makes things so much easier.
Definitely, yeah. We're definitely working in tandem right now, and it's really nice.
What's the feedback you've gotten from the boys coach on this?
The boys coach, he's been around for a while, and he thinks it's a really good idea. He has contacts with coaches that he's helped me with. He's also set me up with some of the club teams around here to talk to them, because some of the high school, or some of the best players in the county don't play high school soccer; they only play club. So he's helping me get in with the clubs to try and get as many kids in there as possible.
So there are some players that could be playing for the school, but they stick with club.
Yeah, whether that is their choice or the coach's choice, I'm not sure the ins and outs of it, but yeah, the boys coach has told me that the vast majority of the best players, at least in our school, only play club.
Interesting. It's so cool to think. So at some point you'll open it up to have girls soccer, and we'll have tennis and whatever.
Oh, we're doing boys and girls soccer.
Oh, boys and girls.
Yeah. So we're doing one day for boys and then one day for girls.
That is so cool. Which one, curiously, has the most players registered or interested?
So right now we have more boys registered than girls.
Okay.
But we have more women's colleges registered than men's colleges. So it's a little bit flipped. So we're working hard on trying to get those girls registered, trying to find how many want to get signed up and want to go to college.
How have you kind of marketed this, like got this out? Like, how have you got those colleges? Have you just been reaching out directly to the ones in Florida, or have you reached
out
to Florida?
I only have one school registered in Florida. The rest of them are across the country. So I mainly used contacts from Twitter. So shout out to all my people that helped me. So I created my own a Twitter page for it. Followed it myself. Just kept retweeting everything I tweeted on there. Anyone that added into it, I sent them the link to register. Gave them a whole spiel of what it's going down. And a lot of the colleges are super happy about it. Because there are a lot of kids out there that say can't afford those chances. So for them to see additional players, they're like, yeah, send me the video. If we can get it down, we will. If not, we'll watch it virtually. This is really cool.
So you will be streaming the thing live?
Yeah. So the plan is to live stream the entire event. Yep.
And then that'll be recorded, and then you can then send that out later to.
Yep. Absolutely.
That is so. The whole idea just seems it makes sense. Because now you're getting the ability to you don't have to be there. And then just the ability to just bring everybody in your little neck of the woods in. Yeah. It just sounds like such a great idea.
It's something that a lot of people think about, and some people are just really confused because we're not asking for money. Thing because it's generally such a money-making scheme. They're like, wait, so you're doing it for free, so what's the catch? I'm like, no, there isn't a catch. I'm just a teacher and a soccer coach trying to help kids. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I think that is so stinking awesome. Uh, so I'm just excited to see how this. So let's give us some information. Like, what's the specifics? When is it?
All
Um,
right. So it's going to be held across the weekend of March the 27th and 28th
okay.
of this year. So the 27th is going to be the boys. The 27th is the boys. The 28th is the girls. 4-hour event where we're looking to get, hopefully, if we can get some Florida colleges signed up, we can get some coaches to come in and run the sessions. So we're looking to run a training session so that colleges can see how kids respond to coaches' questions and kind of input. And then there's going to be just a regular 11v11 game.
So has there been outside high schools that have said, "Hey, can I send my kids there?" Or I'm interested in that. Is there people saying, "Look, I love this idea. Can we get in on this?"
I've had a couple of players ask. There hasn't been any like schools or coaches try and come in, but I have had a couple of schools ask. But because we're running it through the school district, there's an issue with like insurance purposes.
Correct.
So we can only run people that are in our school district. I would love to open it up to everyone, but right now it's not possible. If it's successful, we can maybe collaborate with other counties and start to add more people in. We'll just have to see how this first one goes.
That is, it's so cool. Like my brain, I just can see it because I've taken my sons to ID camps and we've got, traveled here and there. And I think the fact that you could host something centrally, especially for such a large school district like that you have now, not only is it, you're not just focused on your high school, you're working on the whole district, which I think is like really, really cool
Yeah.
on your end. Do you know if there's any other like setups like this out there? I mean, or was this
I haven't
completely off the
heard
top?
of.
This was completely
I
off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, I don't know of any other out there. I've had a lot of people reach out to me on Twitter and asking how I'm doing this because they want to do it in their district.
Mhm.
I've had people reach out from Wisconsin, Arizona, California. They'll be like, "This sounds really cool. How are you doing it? We want to do the same thing." So there's a lot of people out there that do want to do it, but maybe just haven't thought of it before. But as far as I know, I've not heard of any other like county or school district that does this. So it's nice to be the first.
I think the cool thing, especially like you said, because you do a lot of sharing of information about this and like the registration brochure and all that kind of is
Mhm.
like, here's how you sign up. And I think what would be really cool is when you afterward, when you get to start sharing, like, look, here's some of the video that we took, or here's the setup we had, like pictures, so people can start seeing it.
Yeah,
Um, and you can say, look, here's how we did it. Plus, I think that gives a great opportunity. I'm sure you'll get from the players and from the college coaches, like, what things could we have done differently or better? But if someone sees it and goes, "Oh, I love that idea. Did you guys think about blah blah blah?" and then you can implement that for future camps.
exactly. Yeah, like, I've been reaching out to some people and asking like what the college coaches that go to ID camps, like what do they not like about things, and like what would they like to see improved at ID camp, so we can try and do the best that we can. Because I've never attended an ID camp before myself, so I don't know how they run.
Hmm.
So if I can get information from other colleges and make it run the best possible that we can, and just try and make it run as smooth as possible, that'd be really nice.
I just, yeah, I love it. I just love it all. I know I keep saying that, but it's so cool that you're doing. So, um, so you've put that thing into place. Um, is there in the future, what things beyond just the ID camp idea, is there a part of you that would like to get into coaching once like the little one has grown up a little bit and what have you, or are you content to be like teaching and
I would love to get back into coaching. Like I've helped out with the girls team at my high school when the coach at one point was quarantined because of COVID. So I helped jumped in for 2 weeks, and I do miss it. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I love working with the specifically like the U12, U13 age because they soak up everything and they're just so malleable that you can like they'll listen to everything and you can imprint everything you want onto them. And like they listen, like I coached kids from 3 years ago. I went to see some of them the other week when they were practicing, and they were just like so shocked to see me, but still remembered me.
Yeah.
It's so nice to be able to like put such an imprint on kids that 3 years later they're like, Coach Ben, how are you? Like coming up and trying to hug me. I'm like, whoa, 6 feet.
Get your mask on, kid. That's awesome. I think
I would love to get back into it. Probably with the baby right now, like high school is the best one because just the way the time works, like it's straight after school. But as soon as she's up and kicking a ball, like I'll start coaching her. We'll get into little tiny takes and things like that.
Is Mama Bear, is she a fan of soccer? How does she fall into the equation of soccer? Or is she just married to a soccer nut?
She's a begrudging fan. She's slowly learning to love it. She knows that it's a big part of my life, and that it has been for a long time. So she's very open to me trying new things. We moved all the way to Wisconsin for me to take a college coaching position. She was open for us to trying that out, and we moved there for a year. We really enjoyed it, but my wife is born and raised Floridian and did not like the cold. So, plus on top of that, we got pregnant, so we moved back down here. But she is learning. I'm a big fan of the PC game Football Manager. It's just a game that you can control and manage every aspect of a soccer team. So she, before the baby came, she was playing that as well, and she was with my favorite team, so that she can learn the players. So if we ever go back to England and watch a game, she knows who she's looking at.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah,
so
I happened to be watching a game this weekend, and she was watching it with me. And she goes, "Oh, I recognize him. Oh, that's Brit. That's Paddy McNair. I like them."
That is really, really cool. That's an interesting way to introduce her to. It's just nice, easy. You don't have to understand the formations or what's offsides and what's not. Just you get to learn kind of who they are and where they're at on the pitch and and what have you. So the year of college coaching.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? Because you said you love the U12, U13. What was the experience dealing with 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds?
You have to deal with them in a very different way, because suddenly they become adults and they're away from home for the first time. So there's a lot more. You have to put a lot more rules in place to keep them in line, and because it's their first time away from home, they don't always follow them rules. So there's a lot of specific discipline put in because of one event or another. But you're at an age where kids are very skilled, so you're coaching in a very different way. Like they've already got a lot of the technical work down, so now you're working on a bit more of the tactical work and this like team cohesion. More than what you would do with like a U12 team where you're working on the real technical side. Yeah. It's an interesting kind of transition.
So were you on the men's side or boy or girl side, women's side?
I was on the men's side. So I did I've had a pretty like quick rise through things. So I coached club for a year in Florida. And then I got a high school coaching job in Florida. So I did a high school season. And then after that, me and my wife decided to try and move away and try new places. So we went to Arizona, and I spent the spring season volunteering with a D1 women's program. Okay. And then from there, we went to Wisconsin, where I got the job as the assistant coach with the men's program. And then I coached club up there as well. And then we've come back down here where I'm just focusing on the teaching and then this ID camp. So it's been an interesting rise. I'll be honest, like, being English helps a lot. There's this idea that if you were English, you know about football and about soccer.
I was gonna ask about that because there's always this like, well, we've got an accent, you should be able to coach soccer.
Yes, my first coaching job was a volunteer one with a 6-a-side group, and about 2 weeks in, a parent went and complained to the people that run the system. And they said, "What's your problem?" They said, "Well, that team has an unfair advantage because they have a professional coaching them." And they said, "What do you mean a professional?" And they pointed me out, And simply because I had an accent and I book and my session planned out, that made me a professional. Just because I had it all written out.
Yeah, not wild.
Yeah, I got there half an hour early. I laid out my cones. Everything was set. So the kids came in and boom, straight away. And they're like, well, we just make them kick it in the goal for 10 minutes first. I'm like, no, that's not what you should do.
I'm prepared and I have an accent, people. Beware.
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of like being prepared has got me a lot of the positions. Just like talking, like before we started this, like I made sure I remember that you taught math at high school. Just have the little comment. So at the high school job I started, I went into the interview with a 6-week preseason program that the kids were going to run before the season started. And no one had ever come with something like that before. So I went to the D1 program to help volunteer, and I went out with some training sessions that I wanted to do, how I felt periodization should look like with a college team. So like I've tried to be as prepared as possible and to kind of know the system and what the school was like before I got there. So honestly, preparation and being English has got me very far.
Can't coach English, I guess. The accent, I guess I could fake it. So it sounds like you've been you've kind of bounced around with England to meeting your wife in Italy to Florida, and then you kind of worked your way to Arizona to Wisconsin, back to Florida.
Yeah.
Do you foresee? I guess I'm assuming that her family and stuff is in Florida.
Yes.
So is that where you think you're going to kind of just like, all right, this is our settling point, and let's see if we can make the best of what we've got going on here?
Right now, yeah. So we've just bought our first house, and our baby's 5 months old.
Okay.
We've got a lot tying us down here, as well as my wife's family. We've both have been pretty nomadic people. So for me, it was interesting to see more of the US.
Mm-hmm.
But I think unless like a position arises that like isn't what like I just can't turn down, then like I think Florida is going to be the place to be for now.
That's awesome. I think it's kind of cool too, almost symbolic of you kind of starting in Florida and branching out to try some new things, and then it's just kind of brought you back. And I think the cool thing as well for me, just kind of listening to your journey and stuff, is how soccer, like you said, is such a huge part of kind of who you are now, and what you've become at this point. But you've been able to kind of push that to the side a little bit because your focus is now family oriented,
Yep.
your career. But I love the idea that you've gone out beyond that and said, look, I still want to make an impact some way. And now that's where this ID camp has come around. Like you said earlier about seeing kids that you coached at U12, 13 and see them 2-3 years later and they still recognize you. I think the cool thing you're going to get to experience in March, with the ID camp is now you're going to impact kids that are not even they're not even walking your hallways, and they're
Yep.
going to go back to friends. Say, dude, man, this Coach Ben guy let us play, and they're thinking there was, colleges watching us and all that kind of stuff. It's so stinking cool.
Yeah, I think the thing is with soccer, like it's more than just teaching them soccer. Like you're teaching them how to be good people. Like the social cycle side, that's social and psychological side of soccer is kind of put to the side and not thought about. So like we're really like me as a coach, I really try to build people as people rather than just players. Like there's more to these kids aren't going to be playing soccer forever, but if you can teach them good life skills along with soccer, it's going to put them in good stead in the future.
And I think that goes back to what you said earlier about the percentage was, I think you said like 1.5% of those kids that go through even make it to the top. So realistically, if you can get these kids to at least experience an ID camp or maybe get to the college level, like that's really where most of them are going to end up, if they do go beyond high school. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So where in Florida is the school district that you're at?
So St. Lucie County is pretty much bang smack in between Orlando and Miami. We're about an hour and a half, 2 hours, like in between either. So we're on the East Coast, right along I-95. If you just zip up from Orlando, sorry, zip up from Miami or come down from Orlando, you'll find us in about an hour and a half.
That's awesome. So ID camp, and what subject is you teach again?
I teach world history.
World history. So what has that experience been? Because I guess that's cool. Could you technically end up coaching or teaching U.S. history?
Yeah, potentially. It's I'm currently teaching the American Revolution, which is definitely a fun point for my kids to laugh at because we lost. Um, I try and joke and I say, yeah, like we tried to tax you guys, then you got really upset, so we just gave you the land and we just gave up.
Yeah, we're just done playing. Like,
Yeah, we're done playing with you guys. You guys do what you need to do. But no, so yeah, I mean, U.S. history is a definite possibility. Like it's, I'm really enjoying it right now. History is a second passion of mine on top of soccer, especially living in Italy. There's so much of it. I live like 20 minutes away from the Colosseum, 15 minutes from the Trevi Fountain. Like it was such a cool place. So just to be able to pass on like the stories that I've made myself and link it into into classes, it's really interesting.
yeah, that's so cool that to bring your life experiences into it. I think always the kids really grasp onto that type of stuff. What were you in Italy? What was the experience going on there? Was that school or?
No, so it was originally based around soccer again. So me and a friend spent a month traveling around Europe, just watching soccer games. So we were out for 4 weeks and we watched 8 games, ranging from Champions League down to the Swiss second division, just like whatever we could find. So we planned like major games along our route and then picked up little games along the way. But we spent 4 days in Rome because we went to watch Rome versus Juventus. And the game got put back a day or two. So we ended up staying a little bit longer. And I fell in love with the place. So I went home. And then I think it was about 5 weeks later, I quit my job. And I got on a one-way flight to Rome. And I went back to the hostel that I stayed in. And I was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Do you have one? And they're like, oh, we need a bartender. I'm like, perfect. I'll take it.
Wow. That is so you are like you said earlier about being almost like nomadic. I think it's cool though that you I don't know if I want to call it impulsive, but when you get an idea, you're like, "Yep, I'm going for it."
Yeah.
And even the idea of going around and trekking around from stadium to stadium, and really like, I'm not sure how we're going to get from stadium A to stadium B, but we'll figure it out. Where we stay, all that kind of stuff. I think that's so like people are so worried about what others think nowadays, and oh, I got to have everything planned out. I really have like I teach seniors majority of the day and really just trying to figure out what they're going to do next with college and or am I going to go to college or if I don't. And I think it's kind of refreshing to hear how you have just kind of said, look, I'm just going to kind of blaze my own path a little bit, see what I experience. And then like you said, I loved it. I want to go experience it some more. I think that's so stinking cool.
Yeah, like I didn't finish. I finished college in England, but I didn't finish well because I just wasn't very good academically at the time. So I actually went back to college when I moved to the US. So I finished my bachelor's degree here, and honestly, doing it at an older age like allowed me to do better in it. Um, so yeah, from the age of 18, I don't think I've lived in one place for more than 2 years. I've like I said, I've lived in different cities in England. I always came home because I ran out of money. Bail me out. Yeah, and then moved to Italy and met my wife there. She asked if I wanted to come to Florida, and then we kind of worked off that. So it's been a whirlwind. I mean, my wife and I have been together for 5 years now. Been married for 3, together for a four and a half, 5 years. So it's been a crazy time.
It's so stinking cool though. I think I can just picture the stories you're gonna tell your daughter as she grows up. Like, oh yeah, when I was your age, this is what we were doing, or here's where me and mom met, and like all the pictures and
Yeah.
all
We were already planning on making her a little travel buddy. My wife turns 30 this year, and we were planning on going to Paris, but COVID and everything just kind of thrown out of the window.
Yeah.
But she would have come with us. Once COVID's over, she's going to go back to England and visit all of her family, like her grandparents and everything. They're like, we do videos all the time like this, but it's not the same, like being contact. They're missing out on a lot of it. So they're just super excited. Hopefully the baby gets excited as well. We'll see. Has
that been difficult being on this side of the ocean with the majority of your family overseas?
I've always been like, I'm really close with my family, but because I've always been in and out, like I've always kind of spent time with my family, like over the phone or like videos like this. So this is the longest I've gone with not seeing them. It's been 20 months since I was last back in England. So nearly 2 years. So that's the longest I've gone without seeing them. So it is difficult. But I'm also building my own family over here.
Yeah.
It's great that I have my wife and her family. They're super supportive in what we do. They want to come back to England with us as well and visit. So like, it's really nice that I have that connection here. I do miss I'm not saying I don't miss my family. Like I do miss hugging my mum and like just getting a smile from my dad. I do miss that, but it's just nice to have all this here as well.
This whole conversation has been so cool. This is one of the things I've loved about since I started doing this podcast. Start hearing the story. If I saw the stuff you were putting on about the ID camp, and I was like, man, this is really cool. And then you were going to hop on here, and then to kind of hear where you kind of started, and then how you bounced around and where you're at, and then just after all of that, and again, the idea of doing a free ID camp, and then again, like I said earlier, almost impulsively just saying, let's just do this and rock and roll. And you don't think you have any major like expectations. Like, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then we'll keep going from there.
Yeah. My big, that if we get one kid into college, it's a success.
Yeah. I think if
we get one person looking.
And I really think this is something I could see taking off. Like I'm in my head thinking, is this something I may be able to do in the future with my high school program? To have like local coaches, come in and at least see it. Or I love the live stream idea, because now I can, here you go, kids, here's a clip of this, go get highlights, clip them up, send them to coaches. We'll send it directly. Like, we'll try to help you guys out. So
hopefully we start a trend.
Yeah, right on. And we'll give you full credit as well.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right on. So if people want to kind of follow along or even find out more about the ID camp or connect with you, what are some of the best ways or the easiest ways? You mentioned Twitter has been kind of a good friend for you.
Yeah, I live on Twitter way more than I should do, really. Yeah. But you can find me at coach.swalwell. You can find the ID camp. It's at SLW Centennial ID camp. So the high school I work at is St. Lucie West Centennial. So yeah, SLW Centennial ID camp. I'm always retweeting it, so you can find it on there. Again, my email is coachswalwell at gmail.com. That's the main one that I use. Like I said, I'm on there way too much. My wife is always nagging me to get off it. So if you message me on Twitter, you're going to get a reply pretty quickly.
That's awesome. And I will have all his information, all of Ben's information in the notes of this when it goes out on YouTube and on Anchor and all the little things that I throw it out on. Ben, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. It's been awesome. Like I said, I keep saying I love it, but everything I've heard has been so stinking cool. So
I really appreciate it, man. I started listening to all your mini rants last year and you're just getting bigger and bigger. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, I hear you. So I'll wrap this thing up. Hey, this is Kieran, Coach's Chat Corner. I always mess that up. Coach's Corner Chats. It's dyslexic or something. And I'm out. Peace.